The boy Dub Deuce in the building.
What up, what up, what up? It is that guy Dub, and I'm back with another video. How you guys doing? At the end of the day, shout it, I'm good money. Now today, we got a special guest in the building. Your first time to the show, comedian Mr. Rob Coleman. How you doing, brother?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Looks like we in the car and in the building.
There you go. Either way it goes, we outside.
We outside, right?
So
That's what's up.
you just said since it's your first time to my show, like you said, tell people a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, comedian Rob Coleman, veteran comic that's been doing comedy roughly about 20 years. Mostly as a hobby, though, man. Uh, I started like back in the early 2000s at a little club called Robin's Nest. A lot of local comics that's been in the game a long time started there. And it was just fun, man, doing shows and doing things here and there, but I never really took it serious. This last couple of years, I've been like serious about like actually starting a comedy career. So I just been, just trying to get going with headlining and featuring and getting all over the country now. So it's been a journey. It's been up and down, but it's been a lot of fun, man. That's just me in a nutshell.
And he said that's super dope. Just like now, even if it's like when you mentioned you've been doing it as a hobby, you said so you would have certain people sit there and say that you said it shouldn't be a hobby but so long. But you said I think that a hobby is something you're always going to be passionate about. You know, so like I actually like the way you put that. You said that it's a hobby because you
Yeah.
said like I could be doing other shit, but I enjoy this. I'm gonna incorporate this as well into the rest of my life. So you say kudos to you on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one thing that I actually teach a comedy workshop, and in
Mhm.
my comedy workshop, I tell people there's really three types of comics, right? There's your local comic that just enjoys going to open mics and enjoys doing local features, but don't want to do much more than that, and that's fine. That's comedy needs that. But then you got comics that want to get working and do it as a profession, and that's fine too. And then you got guys that want to be famous, like I want to get on TV, I want to do specials, I want to be on Netflix, and that's kind of like upper echelon. And I feel like you really need to be real with yourself when you get into comedy. Like, really, what level are you looking for? Because most
Mhm.
people feel like they're looking for fame, but they cool with just being the best comic at the local open mics and stuff. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a trip to see, as long as I've been in it, where comics fall.
Right. Now, you said we're gonna get into a little bit of current events right now because it's a 2024 has been a huge shakeup in the comedy world. I mean, people are
Yeah.
talking they shit. You said
Yeah.
so like seeing all of this coming out of the comedy arena. You said like, how does that hit you? Seeing all this, you saying name calling and you said beef, if you will. How does that hit you?
I mean, you refer, of course, referring to Cat Williams, right? Cat Williams called everybody out. He called his own mama out, right? Like Cat Williams called everybody out, man, and really exposed the Kia boys of comedy. Now, let me just say this: there's not a lot of brand new jokes, right? Like
Mhm.
everybody got a drunk uncle joke, everybody got a baby mama joke, everybody got a yeah. I don't know how much we can cuss on here. Can we cuss on here?
We're raw and uncut. Talk your
All right.
shit.
Right. Every black female comic got a man with little dick jokes. Every black male comic got a, my baby mama ain't shit jokes. You know what I mean? It's like there's nothing really new, right? The
Mhm.
newness comes from your own personal experience, and that's what creates a joke that nobody can steal. But the premises are all used up, right? Like you go see a black comedy club, everybody gonna be doing jokes about certain things, right?
Mhm.
It's your own unique take on it that's really gonna make you unique. So when you got comics calling each other out over material, that's
Mhm.
just them not going deep enough into their own personal experiences, right? White
Right.
people do this and black people do that. Okay, well, what do you do? And that's what's going to make your joke original, right?
Right.
So I feel like that's kind of what's causing some of it. Like comics are just not going deep enough into their bag. Like nobody could steal Richard Pryor jokes because Richard Pryor was about him, right?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, who's gonna feel a Richard Pryor joke and be like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh no, that's Richard Pryor's life he's talking about. So
Right.
that's where comics need to kind of get to. But I feel I and that's just like the material part of it. The personal part of it, I don't like either because I don't really see this a lot on the white comedy side. I mean, you got people that called out like the Amy Schumers and people like that are joke stealers, but usually that's specific comics that are doing that, the Joe Rogans and people like that. As a whole, I don't see comics doing that on the white side of things. So just kind of a trip, man, that we have that crabs in a barrel, mentality. Oh, he's doing better than me, so I gotta expose him as a joke thief and pull him down a little bit. So
Well, it's like, because you look at like certain people, saying I've heard a lot that Michael Collier is notorious for stealing people's jokes.
yeah,
Is
Michael
that,
Carter does all standards, joke standards. Yeah.
saying it's like, do you think that, in your opinion, is it disrespectful to steal people's jokes, or like, and because basically what Cat was talking about, he's like he took the premise of his joke and Cedric took the premise of his joke and I guess made it his own and ended up making it his closer, things like that. He's like, and like you said a second ago, you said the premises are all taken.
Yeah.
But do you think it's a form of disrespect, or you think it's a form of flattery?
Well, just touching on Michael Coyer does a lot of joke standards, meaning you can't really trace it back to a specific writer, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
knock knock, who's there? Banana, banana who? Banana, banana who? Orange. Aren't you glad I didn't say banana, right? Like nobody can go back and trace who originally did that joke and say, "Oh, you stole my banana joke," right? So those are the kind of jokes that Michael Coyer do. Jokes that are just kind of knock knock jokes and white man, black man, Chinese man jokes. You know what I mean? You remember them jokes growing up? You be on the back of the
Oh.
boat. There was a black man, white man, Chinese man, right? Remember them old jokes? Nobody is, a writer of that joke that can say, that's mine. Little Johnny jokes or whatever. Those jokes are standards, and those are what Michael Coyer uses a lot. So it'll be really hard to take a Michael Coyer joke and say, oh, he stole that from Red Fox, or he stole that from Mantan, or some some old comic. Now those comics you should use standards too. If you listen to an old Red Fox album or old some of those old albums from back then, Willie and Lester, like really old albums, you'll hear some jokes repeated here and there, you know what I mean, but with their own little twist on it, their own little flair or whatever. So that's not necessarily a crime to use a standard. Hell, I use versions of standards in some of my jokes, but I just kind of put my own personal experience in. But when you are actually stealing the whole thing, like word from word, like I think there was this one joke that they showed. You know what it was? It was with the mustache. Come on, Rob. From Cleveland. Come on.
Steve Harvey?
Steve Harvey, yeah. Why can I think of his name? But anyway, he stole a joke like that was word from word where I guess he dressed up like a box or something like that on Halloween. And his mama asked him, what he was, and he was like UPS man or something like that. It was some kind of joke that he stole from another comedian, and that was word for word. That kind of stuff can't go on. You can't do stuff like that.
Right, and for those that are unfamiliar with it, you saying that he has allegedly stole that from Mark Curry. So
Mark Curry, yeah. Mark Curry says
he's
that.
also a legend in the game as well.
Yeah, exactly. Mark Curry is so underrated. Jesus Christ, that dude is funny.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
saying, and then you saying, and along with the Cat Williams thing, then you had Monique, who's coming out, and you saying it's like you saying like certain people believe her, certain people hate her. You saying it was like the people that hate her. You said it's usually like you said you need to stop talking so much, stay in a woman's place or whatever, or use it, or the women that hate her are basically like you call your husband daddy, you know what I'm saying? Like, should no man have that much control over you and blah, 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 this, that, and the fucking third. But
Let me just say this real quick. Every wife out there should have at some point a moment where you call your husband daddy, if you know what I mean. Right?
There you go.
At some point, you should be like, yeah, you're doing that, daddy, right?
But, no, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like because she's a black woman, you know what I'm saying? It's like, shut up. But and we can get into the particular saying that you were saying Amy Schumer, you saying got I guess what $18-20 million for her Netflix special, but in my personal opinion, Amy Schumer is not funny. Usually, where Leslie Jones got I think it was $65,000 for the Ghostbusters movie, while Melissa McCarthy got you said about 4 or 5 million.
Right.
So like I don't think everything Monique was saying was wrong. I think it's just because she has that black ball moniker on her back.
Hmm.
Like anytime that she's trying to say anything, everybody's telling her to shut up.
Right.
That. And I think that she definitely crossed the line when she got that. Because like I said, if it's comic for comic, you say, hey, talk your shit. But once we get out of comedy, you start talking about my family. Okay, now it's a problem. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like you
Right.
said, so like in your opinion, how did you? What do you think of the whole Monique situation?
Um, I applaud her in certain senses. Like, yeah, if you feel like you're being treated unfairly, you should definitely speak out. If you feel like there's discrepancies in pay and stuff like that, you should definitely speak out. Um, but you don't have to be mean spirited in how you trash other people, right? I think
Mhm.
she's like trashing other people's character, and that's really what's. I mean, if you want to get paid for more movies, you need to negotiate better, right? I mean, you got the name and you got the history, right? I mean, her show is probably top 20, top 10, most
Mhm.
popular black shows from that era. That show is still making money in syndication. My kids grew up on that show. They love, Monique's show. And it made the career of a couple of people on that show. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So you have success that you could build off of. But where's a new sitcom? Where's your TV experience? Appearances. Where's your late night appearances? Where are you? Sort of stoking that fire to keep your name relevant, right? You can't just be like, okay, I did this 25 years ago, now give me $10 million. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a business, and
Mhm.
you're only going to be as marketable as your popularity. So I don't know. I mean, Monique is definitely a comedy legend. You could trace her roots back to the early '90s with all kind of TV shows and appearances and stuff like that. So she's legend status. But at some point, you have to be like, okay, let me use my legend status to get paid instead of going on every Tom, Dick, and Harry TV show and complaining about it. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I feel like you have a resume to get the money you want. You just gotta, get the right team. I think maybe Daddy is not negotiating your pay right. Maybe you need to get a mommy or an uncle to start negotiating your shit. Stop letting your daddy do it.
You need a Pookie on your team. You shows up with the pistol on his hip. You said,
Yeah,
or something.
make a goddamn Tubi movie. You know how much money people making off Tubi movies?
I'm sure. Wow.
Yeah, people getting paid. Like that's the new black Wall Street Tubi.
Right. Now, speaking of Tubi, you saying it's like with all these other platforms like your Amazon Prime or your Tubi, things like that. There are so many different ways to generate sources of income. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and so that brings a lot of new people out of the woodwork. You saying where you see like people like what's some DC Young Fly or a Country Wayne or a Jess Hilarious, that
Right,
didn't necessarily take the traditional routes of your traditional comics. They were able to gain their following on the internet, and where it was able to transfer that into putting asses in seats at these comedy shows. Do
right.
you think it's a detriment, or do you think it's like a way of cheating the system, or you think it's they've evolved with the system to make it work for them?
The latter, they evolved with the system. I mean, a lot of people that say, "Oh, these internet comics ain't funny." I mean, that's some of that is jealousy, because
Hmm.
an internet comic with 200,000 followers can get a job at a comedy club over somebody like me that's been doing comedy for 20 years, and I got maybe 2,000 followers. You know what I mean? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business. The comedy club is going to hire who's going to put butts in seats. And if some dude with a funny dance can put out a TikTok video and say, "Hey, I'm gonna be in Indianapolis next week. Get your tickets," and that club is full for the whole weekend. I don't care if he's funny or not. If I'm a club owner, right? You know what I mean? Hey, I'm filling up butts and seats. Now, that's the whole reason I do my workshop, is because I feel like people are kind of rushing to the front of the line without learning how to be funny in front of a crowd, right?
Mhm.
There are techniques, and listen to me carefully, because a lot of people say, "Oh, he teaching comedy classes. He trying to teach people how to be funny." No, I'm not. I'm trying to teach people how to perform in a way that's conducive to a live audience versus, your TikTok shit, right? Like, and I always use this analogy in my workshops because I feel like it fits. We all know somebody growing up who was cold at flipping, right? Could do backflips, forward flips, would get on top of bus stops and flip off of those and do all kind of crazy shit, flip over fences. And, like we knew people that was good at that, right? But how
Mhm.
good would they do in a gymnastic competition? And where they had
Mhm.
to get on the floor and do a floor exercise. Judges would be like, "Oh, that wasn't shit." And he'd be like, "But I was flipping my ass off." Well, that's because you haven't learned what the judges are looking for. You just good at flipping. And I feel like that's the same thing with comedy. There's people that are good at just raw comedy, but they haven't learned how to turn it into a performance, right? And that's really what, my workshop is about. Let's take that raw talent, apply some comedy techniques, and let's get you stage ready. And that's what a lot of these internet comics are not going through. They just funny online and they think it translates to the stage, and it don't.
Well, have you personally ever seen an internet comedian? You said that had you said has killed it online, then go to a stage and then bomb their ass off.
um I guess I've seen a couple. I mean, I've done some white clubs, I guess, and I've seen some guys that are popular for like music or magic or something like that. And sometimes that stuff doesn't translate well to a live audience, right? I mean, think about it. You turn on YouTube or TikTok, and you see a guy singing a funny song, and yeah, you like, oh shit, that song was funny, and it's like a 3.5 minute video. Now you got to listen to 45 minutes of that, right? Now you like, right? You know what I mean? That's where sometimes the live performance can run into a wall in translation, and it's
Right,
not that the guys are not funny necessarily. It's sometimes a little bit of something is good. Like, hey, I can eat one Hershey Kiss, that's amazing, but let me eat 45 of them. I'm like, oh shit, now I'm sick. And
right,
I feel like that's sometimes what these internet comics are doing.
right. Well, you saying like with that being said, it's like when you hit the stage personally, you know, saying like, are you able to you saying adjust on the fly? Because we saying like we've also seen the videos that have gone viral of you know saying certain comedians lose it or you know saying like they get sidetracked and then you say that because like somebody's heckling or something like that, and then you know they basically come out of character. I believe like you said was it I think last week or the week before it was a Corey Holcomb was basically you said talking shit about Donnell Rollins, and Donnell Rollins basically interrupted this nigga's entire show to talk
Yeah.
his shit back. It's just like how do you take you said that form of you said stuff while you're on stage?
Let me say this about their situation just real quick. Corey Holcomb and Donnell Rollins are two comics that I absolutely respect, but I don't enjoy Corey Holcomb's form of comedy, and that's fine. I mean, it's not for me, but it's for the people that love him, love him. I kind of enjoy Donnell Rollins' form of comedy a little bit more. He has really high energy with his inflections and act outs and stuff like that. I really enjoy his form of comedy. I thought he should have did a longer special to prove Corey wrong. I mean, he did basically a half-hour special when you take out the act outs and some of the shit in a minute. He really only did about a half hour, which is, I mean, for the amount of time he's been doing comedy, he should have been able to do an hour easy, right? It
Right.
should have been an hour easy. So, but as far as being able to change up on the fly, that just really comes with experience. Um, what I'll say this real quick: a lot of times when comics get started, if they rock out for 5 minutes and then they get 15 minutes on another show and they rock out and then they get 20 minutes on another show and they rock out, they like, oh shit, I'm ready. Right. And they've maybe done like 10, 15 shows. I'm ready. You see how hot my 20 minutes was?
Mhm.
Right? So they start, calling comedy clubs wanting to do headlines and stuff like that. When you do a headline and you only used to doing 15, 20 hot minutes, and you got to stand up there for 45 minutes, you not only are you unprepared, but any little distraction is going to throw you off. You haven't performed long enough to know how to deal with going off book and then coming back to your material again. Like
Hmm.
me, I like I said, I've been doing it for 20 years, and I'm just now really kind of learning how to kind of master that, where I can go off book and do some crowd work and play with the audience a little bit and then come back to my material. It's not easy to do, you know.
Right. You said now. You said like, do you like doing improv, or do you teach improv in your workshops?
Um, my workshop focuses primarily on beginners getting started. Where do you get your
Okay.
material from? How do you write? What are the most popular writing techniques? How do you kind of form your 3 minutes to 5 minutes to 20 minutes? Because it really is stages that you learn comedy. You know, it's almost like a baby learning to walk. You know, you take a few steps and you good, you know what I mean? And then you start learning how to walk, you know, and that's kind of how comedy is, you know. So I teach that beginning stuff. Crowd work is more an advanced level of comedy that you really kind of have to kind of work on. It
Mm.
that doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. Some people it does. Some people are just naturally talented at just going off book and talking to people. I'll say the 40, 85 South boys, they good at that. That's their whole stick. You know what I mean? Is being able to look in the audience and be like, look at grandma out there with that crooked wig with the chin strap and look like a thundercat. And they good at that going off book stuff. You know, I'm not great at that. I'm more so a performative comic where I know what my material is and I'm gonna go joke to joke to joke. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's not my lane as far as performing. But I can do that, and that's only because of experience, not because of anything other than experience, you know.
Right. And I was like, how gratifying is it when you put somebody through your workshop and you're able to see them flourish and see them to take everything that you're giving them and
Ah,
start to flourish. What is that feeling like towards you?
well, let me ask you this: do you have any kids at all?
I have five.
You have five. Do you have any sons?
I have one.
All
Pray
right.
for me.
There you go, right? Um, Imagine your son playing middle linebacker for the high school team and knocking the shit out of some running back, trying to do a sneak or an end around or something like that. That's what it feels like when I hear a comic say, Rob, that joke wasn't working. I tried your advice and now I'm killing with that joke. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That's how that feels to me personally. It feels like my son just, tackled the running back for a 5 yard loss. You know what I'm saying? So um that's what I do it for. I don't, I don't charge a lot for my workshop. I charge $25, and that's
Okay.
really only covering my personal costs because I buy some pizza, I buy some notebooks for the new comics and some other things that I have to pay for out of my own pocket. I don't do it for fame or anything like that. I do it because I love, doing comedy. And I also do it because when I started out, I was really raw, right? I was getting up on stage and I was doing shit that I saw the Def Comedy Jam people doing.
Mm.
I'm wilding out, I'm yelling, and I'm crawling all over the stage, and I'm falling, and I'm doing act outs, I'm doing like all of this crazy shit that wasn't me. It
Mm.
wasn't, my total personality. It was funny, and I was getting work and winning awards and doing shit like that because of it. But I was copying performance styles that wasn't necessarily me. Now at the
Okay.
age I'm at now, it's like I feel like I'm into my own character, and I feel like that's what a lot of comics need to learn. What's your character? Like, who are you when you get on stage?
Mm.
Everybody want to be Dave Chappelle Jr. when they get on stage right now, and that may not be your lane. Let's discover who you really are, and that's one thing I talk about in my workshops as well.
Right. Okay. Now you say like I wanna go back to something else. Cat Williams says basically that Kevin Hart basically popped up out of nowhere. We all know he's from Philly. Things like that, and he actually was not discovered in Hollywood. He was actually discovered in New York by Dame Dash, which how he ended up in Paper Soldiers in the first place.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
in Paper Soldiers is the catalyst that catapulted him into Hollywood. But so it's like, do you think like when someone like a Cat Williams is basically, I guess, throwing around open-ended accusations that are easily disproven, do you think that more or less discredits his entire, his entire you said depravity of everything that he said?
Um, I don't think it's I don't think it's possible necessarily to tarnish Cat Williams as a comedian. Cat Williams
Mm,
is legend status, and his performances stand on their own. I mean, everybody loves his first 4 or 5 specials. I mean, and the guy works his ass off. He's prolific with how he produces comedy specials. Putting your mouth on Kevin Hart's career and saying he did this to do that and did that to do this, and I do feel like that kind of lowers you a little bit, because there's
mm,
plenty of Kevin Hart defenders out there, and Kevin Hart has helped so many other comedians. I mean, don't get me wrong, Cat has helped comedians too, but he helps them, and they help in different ways. Like Cat will, see a new comedian that's pretty good and give them $1,500, right?
mm,
Or pay for their hotel room or something like that. But he kind of does it like low key, and that's fine. But Kevin Hart is creating like jobs, for people with Heartbeat Productions. Shit, I
mm.
applied. I went to his website and was like, "Is there any openings?" I lost my main job like back in November, and
Okay,
I feel
sorry.
like I'm a pretty good writer, so I literally like sent out a message to one of his top producers and like, "Hey, if you're looking for writers, I've been doing this for 20 years. Give me a call," because that's the lane Kevin Hart is. I don't know if I could send that same email to Cat Williams, right? Like Cat Williams be like,
Right.
well, I ain't got no studio, but I'll give you $1,500, right? Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like they help people in different ways, and you shouldn't be crapping on Kevin Hart, no matter how he got popular. In
Mm,
my personal opinion, and I tell you this, in my personal opinion, Kevin Hart kind of lightweight did it the right way.
mm,
Um, I saw him in little roles in movies, right? People talk about Soul Plane. That was not his first movie. I've seen Kevin Hart in like at least 3 other movies with like really minor roles. Like I saw something 30 going on, 30 and ticking or something like that. Some little movie that's on Peacock, and he plays like a minor role in it. And like
yeah,
something else, I
I
think
remember
you
that movie.
mentioned another movie that he was in, like just a really minor role. I mean, that's how you do it. You don't have your first movie being like a starring role, even though people think Soul Plane is his first movie, and it's not. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like Kevin Hart did it the right way. I feel like he's super humble. I feel like he helps a lot of comedians. Hell, he helps some comedians here local with the Heartbeat Productions. My boy Rob Ward won that, and it helped kind of launch his career. And he's working now because he's, a Kevin Hart contest winner. And that's
Okay.
something that when it's on your resume, you now affiliated with Kevin Hart, and now you're getting work. I mean, that who else is really doing that? Can you name me anybody else that's really doing that for comedians?
Not that I
Um,
could think of.
yeah, I know Sid is doing some sort of online joke contest that people are like leery to send their stuff into because it's like, oh, you trying to steal my joke, Nick. Right? And I think a couple of other people, I want to say Tiff maybe tried to do just trying to do something with comedy or something like that, but nobody's doing what Kevin Hart is doing. You know what I'm saying? So get that boy his flowers, man. Stop.
Exactly. The only other person I could probably compare to that would probably be Nick Cannon with his Wild 'N Out platform.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wild 'N Out has launched the careers of I don't know how many comedians, right?
Hmm.
And Nick is a boss. You know what I'm saying? I want to say somebody else is doing something recently I heard about too, but it's comics need to give back, man. This is not an easy thing to do. You really are paid in cash mostly, and the cash that you get a lot of times is not enough to support you. You really have to sell merch and do other things to make ends meet. It's not an easy business to be in, and that's another thing I tell people in our workshop: be realistic about the kind of money you make. You're not going to make a lot of money, until you're about 10 years in doing this. So
You know, sitting there like well, you was talking about like earlier that you said won awards and accolades. You said, but you weren't being yourself. You said now that you said you moved beyond that. Can you spot a when a comic is not being themselves?
kind of, sort of. I mean, it's not hard to kind of see some of that. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Um, the the posture, the style of dress, the attitude, some of that stuff is very much, hey, I'm trying to be what I saw somebody else be on TV, and they're not being
right.
themselves. You know what I'm saying? So, um, a lot of comics, something I've learned about comics, man, comics are some of the most intelligent people that you'll ever meet, right? A lot of them are nerds. A lot of them collect comic books. A lot of them, like cosplaying and shit like that, like behind the scenes. But they'll get
Right.
on stage and be like, "Yeah, I be fucking these bitches," and when you ever go to the club and the bitch grab your, and it's like, that's not you. That's not you. I was just talking to you behind the scenes. You was talking about how you waiting for the new Pokemon movie to come out. You know what I mean? What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? You was at, like some comics will get up there and spew a bunch of stuff, and they actually are really religious, right? These bitches be tripping and like, hey, thank God, and they in church every Sunday. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So it's like, sometimes you performing to what you think the audience wants to hear. And I used to do that too, man. I mean, I do have, and I still kind of, I have two different lightweight performance styles if I'm doing an all white audience versus I'm doing an all black audience. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You can't perform the same way as Skeets that you do in Massillon or some,
Mhm.
BFE county in Southern Ohio. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But um, the trick is to give the audience what they want, but not get too far out of who you are personally. Because that at the end of the day is what's going to make you memorable to people. You know.
Absolutely. Now, as you said, you as a teacher, you said like, let's say one of your counterparts gets on stage and they just bomb.
Hmm.
You see, what would be that pep talk you would give that particular comic after bombing after they come off stage? Like, what would that conversation be like?
Look for your opportunities. It's just like, if the Browns get blown out, they go home and look at the tape, right? Hey, what happened on this tape? Oh, we should have did this play faster, or we didn't see what the defense was doing. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a similar thing. When you're doing comedy, you really do need to tape yourself a lot. You need to
Mhm.
record yourself a lot. You need to listen for your laughs and learn how to build on those. You also need to listen for your dead air and learn how to fill that in. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? There sometimes silence can help you with certain joke types, but sometimes you don't want to dwell in that too long and let the audience sit there because you want them to get used to laughing, right?
Mhm.
Comedy kind of has a cadence to it, almost like a song. And just like with a song, you want to be like da 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 da, and that's the way your performance want to be. Hey, this
Mhm.
lady, ba da. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be a cadence and a rhythm once you really learn how to do comedy. And sometimes you bomb because who wants to hear you know what I'm saying? You don't have
Mhm.
any cadence, you don't have any rhythm. The crowd don't know when to expect jokes. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it can sound like a mess. So that's one thing I do a lot too when I teach. I relate comedy to music, because it does have a rhythm and a pattern that you really want to try to learn, and what your style is.
Mhm. Now, you said your class. Do you teach comics the importance of paying attention to that light and not go over time?
So important. That's so important, man. Because once you get a reputation of going over the light, you almost become unhireable, right?
Mm.
Because here's what comics don't realize: they feel like them being funny on stage is the most important thing. No, it's
Mhm.
not. It's the club owner and how much money he can make, right? And he can
Mhm.
only make money if he's able to do a good show, get your ass off stage, turn the room over, and get ready for another show, right?
Mhm.
So if you're doing a half hour and you get off stage, he turns the room over in 10 minutes and you could do another half hour. That's marketable. If you're
Mhm.
doing 45 minutes, I can't turn the room over. The next crowd comes in mad. You're doing another hour and a half because you know it's the second show and there's no other show coming. Now you got a mad audience that'll never come back again. You are not marketable to a comedy club. And I don't know
Right.
what's hard for comics to see about that. Like sometimes comics is like, but I was the funniest nigga in there. Right, you were funny, no doubt. But the club owner is looking at you like, this nigga is, you know what I'm saying? He just going over time. I can't use him. You know what I'm saying? So it's so important to pay attention to the light and respect it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Acknowledge it when you see it. Okay, hey, I see it. You know what I'm saying? and then, respect your time. A lot of times you see the light, you got a minute left. You can ride that. You
Mm,
don't have to immediately shut it down, but give the owner an acknowledgement, like, okay, and this last thing I'm gonna say is this. It's okay to do that, especially if you just got the light, because you're letting them know I'm wrapping up. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? So, learn those little techniques early because it'll make you marketable. And that's the biggest thing in making money with comedy.
right. Now, you said, I'm going to give a big shout out to my brother Lex Vegas. He also has a show over here on Redline every Thursday from
Yeah.
7 p.m. to
Oh, yeah,
8
yeah, yeah.
p.m. So how did you meet Lex Vegas, and how has it been working with Lex Vegas?
Lex Vegas cornered me in a corner one time and put his elbow in my throat
Pause.
and said, "You gonna do my show?" No, but I started seeing, you know, I had got out of comedy for a while, and during the pandemic, I kind of came back in doing some online shows with a good friend of mine, Ryan Weiss, and his Eargasm comedy. If you go to eargasm.com, you'll see a lot of online comedy shows that we did. We did it for like 2 or 3 years until the pandemic was over with. Some of those shows are actually really funny. If you get a chance to see some of those online comedy shows. And when we came back from the pandemic and I started going out to clubs again and open mics, I just started seeing him floating around. You know what I mean? Who was this guy in the shades, floating around clubs and stuff like that? And I started learning that he was getting his feet on learning how to promote shows and getting the names of comics that he felt like were pretty good. And he had a good roster of comics before we even kind of started working together. He had some people that were fire at open mics and doing local shows. And it just kind of organically just happened. We just kind of started getting in each other's circle, and eventually just kind of said, "What's up?" And, "Hey, you got a show? I'm doing comedy, and let's get together." It wasn't, I don't remember a specific first time. It was just kind of like, "What's up?" here and there, and gradually we just started having conversations in the highways and byways of comedy.
Well, you said, no, we've all dealt with or heard about either people who are bad businessmen in the industry, no matter what
Mhm.
industry it is. No, you think everybody that I've talked to, I've had on my platform, has basically saying that Lex is using, I guess, a breath of fresh air, because if he says he's going to do it X, Y, and Z, he's going to do it X, Y, and Z. Now you said, like, you mentioned earlier about the club owners and stuff like that, but how important is it in a comic's career to deal with people that are, you said, above board, and you said want to do things the right way instead of cheating people?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's important. I can't tell you how many people I've run into that have dreams and they want to do stuff and they see that you're pretty good. I was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do shows and we going to North Carolina. We're gonna do me in Tennessee. I got a cousin in Atlanta. We're gonna be down there. We're gonna doing stuff." And then you never hear from them again, right? You hear that a lot. It gets to the point where I'm almost desensitized sometimes when I hear certain things, to the point where I've actually missed some opportunities, right? Like this dude came up to me one time and was like, "Oh, dude, you really good, man. Here's my number. Call me and I'm gonna get you in with Bob Sumner and we're gonna be doing shows all over, the Northeast." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, whatever." I called one time and the line was busy. I was like, "Okay, it ain't about nothing." Sure enough, I'm seeing Bob Sumner doing shows all over the Northeast now. And I'm like, maybe I should have called him. You know what I mean? So sometimes, you can miss an opportunity, right? But in all honesty, though, the majority of the stuff you hear is people that think they know what they're doing. And Lex is
Mm.
the kind of guy that kind of uh is like, "I'm gonna figure it out." If he was a kid jumping in the pool, he's jumping in the deep end because he's
So,
he's gonna learn how to swim versus doing a bunch of dog pedaling and stuff in the shallow, right? And that's really what he's been doing, man. He is a very hard working dude, as far as I can tell. His energy is off the charts. I mean, this is a dude that he went through some illness and stuff last year, but was still doing his radio show on a regular basis. The one time he didn't have the opportunity to do it, I called him and was like, "Dude, if you ever can't do your radio show, let me know. I'll fill in for you." And as a man of a word, as a man being a man of his word, he called me and was like, "Yeah, Rob, I'm gonna be off in January. Go ahead and fill in for me in January." And I did his show and we had a great time. You know what I'm saying? And
mm,
is willing to trust somebody with their baby like that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's his show, and he trusted me to host it for him. Now he did tune in and watch, right? And added his little comments. I think he was actually in Vegas at the time. But
Mm.
you know, as far as I could tell, man, he's been a man of his word. Um, he does shows. I get paid for the shows that I do for him. I never have to fight him for money or anything like that, and that's rare. And I feel like he, like you said, he is a breath of fresh air because you know, he's doing his thing. You know.
Definitely. Now, you said I've been around less. I've gotten to meet you said a lot of you guys. You said whether just becoming friends on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, what have you. It's like you just like so far. None of the you saying that the Ohio comedians that I've met so far has been bad to me. Or you say like rub me the wrong way to like give me you saying a weird energy or anything like that. So I just want to shout it. And you guys all stick together. You guys are always sharing each other's stuff. You guys, you said like it's almost like you guys. I mean, it's a lot of y'all, but it's like y'all are all a family. So how does that family dynamic feel to you? You said because usually comedy can be very cutthroat, just like music can be very cutthroat. But you said all of you guys are pretty much stick together. So how, how does that feel to you?
It definitely feels different because, like I said, I started in early 2000s, and the dynamic of comedy was very different. One of
Mm-hmm.
my comedy mentors, when I first started doing comedy, he was like, "Rob, you're pretty good, but you need to learn this quick." And you know, no disrespect for women, but he said comedians are like bitches, and what he meant by that is just they're catty, right? Like comics can be like, you know, he all right, but you know, he can't follow me, you know, and I guess you're supposed to have that attitude a little bit if you think you're good, right? You're supposed to be like, yeah, I'm really good, right? I've always been like really modest about my comedy. You know, I know that I'm decent, but I never like be like, oh, I'm better than such and such. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of was the vibe back like when I first started. There was definitely cats that was like, hey, I'm way better than him, and how's he getting so many shows because I'm better than him. There's still some of that today, lightweight. You know, you just that's unavoidable. That's human nature. You know what I'm saying? When you see somebody that personally you don't maybe feel like is as good getting work, you know what I mean? But for the most part, we do come together like Voltron. You know, it's kind of similar to Wu-Tang Clan, right? Like Wu-Tang Clan don't necessarily always like each other, but when it's time to do something together, you ain't gonna talk about my boy. You know what I'm saying? We gonna perform together, and you got a problem when we all get together. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for the most part, Cleveland comedy is kind of like that. You know, we do have our little arguments here and there. Or why you doing a show on the same night I'm doing my show, and why you ain't never have me do your room and I had you do my room, and you get some of that, but for the most part we do present a united front where it's like if I'm doing a show, I'm not going to not call you if I know you good, and you're not going to not call me. You know what I'm saying? So you know, for the most part, I think that's how we get past. We honest with how we feel about each other, and we still get that work. You know, I would put our top 10 comics against any other city's top 10. I think we were blown out the water.
Listen, I definitely agree with that. You say shout out to Tank with a C, Tyrone Gaines, Keith Silly, Timbuktu, you
Yeah,
Tsunami with a little T. You say like I holla. Just like oh my god, you guys are
yeah,
super dope.
yeah.
And you said like I said, I've been in the room with a few of you guys.
Mhm.
You know, what I'm saying? And it's just like like you see the shit on TV, but then like when you're able to do these rooms and like you sit in, but then you're also able to have a conversation with the comedian after the show. It's just like okay, now I can kind of see where they're coming from. He's like, so is it important to you like after a show to like you said talk with some of the audience members, or do you one of those that gets on stage, does your shit, and gets the hell on?
No, no, I'm always thanking the audience. I was just actually coaching somebody about this the other day, where we were talking about audience connection. You know, because he was feeling like he wasn't connecting with his audience, and I asked him, "Where's your sight lines when you're performing? Are you looking at individual people? Are you looking over their heads? You know, are you looking towards the back of the room? Because a lot of comics, just to remember, won't look at individual people. They'll kind of just focus towards the back of the room. You know what I mean? And that's something that I was guilty of. I used to do. because I didn't want to forget my jokes. So I'm trying not to look at individual people. You know what I'm saying? But that's so important. Like if you know your joke and you've mastered your jokes and you know your jokes in and out and you know looking at somebody is not going to distract you, you still going to deliver that joke. Go ahead and look at individual people and acknowledge people that are having a good time. And once you acknowledge them having a good time, that gives them a connection with you, and thank them for that afterwards, right? They've paid money in many cases, right? They've paid money, they've bought drinks, they probably are going through something personally, because we as human beings, who's not going through something personally, right? We
Right.
are here tonight to forget about our personal problems, our stresses, the kids, the spouse, the problems, the bills. We are here tonight to forget about all of that and have a good time. So if somebody is giving you that, that's a gift. You know, if somebody's laughing at what you're giving them, that's a gift. You need to thank them for that gift, right? You know,
Right.
don't poo-poo that and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I killed. No, go and thank them. And I make it a point to really go out and try to thank audience members that I saw like falling out, right? If you really was enjoying the show, I'm going to thank you, like no doubt, you know. So it's important.
You said like with the going back to Michael Collier, you said like one thing he spotlights local comedians.
Yeah.
You said like how important is that? You said to the culture.
To spotlight local comedians, I think it is important because not only does it lets the audience as a whole out there know that comedy is not dead, right? Because a lot of people, you know, we're not seeing new superstars necessarily in comedy, right? Like I felt like throughout the really the 80s, 90s, 2000s, like every decade there was like a new hot dude, right? Like after Richard Pryor was Eddie Murphy. After Eddie Murphy, you got Martin Lawrence and you got Chris Rock and you got like hot dude after hot dude. And like Kevin Hart is kind of like the latest hot dude. And you got guys like Laurel and people like that. But I don't know who the new hot dude is yet that's across cultures, right? Like people say, oh, it's DC Young Fly. Well, most white people don't know who DC Young Fly is. He's not cross cultures yet. So there's room for a new hot dude. And I feel like for the most part, people think, oh, well, comedy is dead because there's no new hot dude. And that's what Michael Coria is doing. Like, no, there's a bunch of hot motherfuckers out here. You know, they just need an opportunity, you know. So I'm going to introduce you to them. You know what I mean? And I've been on this show a couple of times, this morning show, and I've gotten like some good reviews from it. And I actually posted on my website. So if you go to my website, robcolemancomedian.com, what was that again, Rob? robcolemancomedian.com. You can go there and and
One
see
more
like
time for the people in the back.
robcolemancomedian.com. And I have like some of my performances posted there, especially for Michael Coyer. So that really is important to breathe new life into comics because he's doing that. And on a comic side of things, it's important to feel like you're doing something. Like most of the comics locally that have done Michael Coyer, they have it on their page, they have it, you know, in their social media. They're really proud of that, and it really is something to be proud of, you know.
Right. You said like now in your workshops, do you teach your students about engaging with social media?
That's a part of it. And just real quick, I do call it a workshop more so than a class,
Okay.
because I'm learning too sometimes, right?
Okay.
The things that I'm coming from is not my opinion. I literally uh, show people techniques that I've learned in different comedy manuals that I've read. I've read
Right.
about I've read about maybe 10 different books on comedy, and some of the themes were kind of common across all of those books. So I use those common themes along with what I know personally to kind of build my workshop. And I
Right.
do call it a workshop more so than a class because I'm not necessarily teaching us so much as I'm honing what you already have, you know,
Okay.
with
That's fair.
different things. You know what I mean? So I don't want people to get an idea of, oh, he's going to teach me how to be funny. No, you know, and that's just, you know, schematics or whatever. And I don't mind people calling it a class, but, you know, as a workshop, I feel like a veteran comic can come and we can, on the same level, say, here's what I've been doing. Cause I need that, you know. Sometimes I run jokes by comedians on my level too, and say, you know, hey, when I'm running my setup, maybe I should, you know, establish my premise better. so we have some high level conversations, and that's what I want to do in my workshops as well. So
You said, well, with that, you said it's like the reason I brought up social media is because a lot of people they want the attention from social media, but they cannot handle the comment section. Usually, I see it. I see it all the time. And like one thing on my platform, I try to teach children because I have children. Using like I said, four of my children are girls, and they're on. Well, you said the older three are on social media, and
right.
it's always some bullshit going on. Usually, oh, they're talking about me. Turn the shit off. Usually, but
Yeah.
you a lot of these kids now they don't know how to handle the comment section. So if you like, you had I guess some teenagers in your workshop, and they were explaining to you is like, yes, I'm putting out this content, but people are so mean in the comment section. Like, how would you tell them how to deal with the comment section?
I tell them like this. There's I watch wrestling a lot. I'm a big wrestling fan,
Mm-hmm.
and there's something called heat and
Mm-hmm.
that exists in wrestling. You could be a hot baby face or a hot heel, right? But as long as you have heat, meaning people are engaging with you. When you come out, people boo, 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 or when you come out, people yell, yeah, yeah. Comments, positive or negative, are still heat, right? It's still people engaging with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if they didn't care, no comments is worse than, in my opinion, is worse than negative comments,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because at least with negative comments, people have something that has struck them enough to care to type something and say, I didn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can embrace that and build on that, you know what I mean? And make it, something that you can use. Now, are they talking about your weight? Are they doing like big back comments and stuff like that? Embrace that. Hey, your big back baby is back online again, right? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because you're building on that heat. You know what I'm saying? And I welcome that. Like a lot of people are talking about recently, the rapper Dylon
Mm-hmm.
came out and said that Dave Chappelle ruined his career after doing that sketch. Who are the top five comedians? Dylan, 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 and Dylan, right? And
Mm-hmm.
people are like, nigga, you fucked that up, right? You messed up an opportunity to take that heat and contact Dave Chappelle and be like, hey, Dave, you ran that skit about me. Can I do a song on your show? You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? I mean, his show was the hottest show at the time right now. Why wouldn't you reach out to Dave Chappelle and be like, hey, dude, yeah, thanks for that skit, man. Like everybody's talking about me. Let me do a song on your show. Dave Chappelle would have been like, come on, man. Right? Of course.
Crazy.
Right, right. So I feel like, don't miss that opportunity by focusing on your personal feelings. Focus
Mm-hmm.
on that energy that people are giving you, because energy is, what do you learn this in physics? Energy is positive or negative. It could be redirected. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So let's redirect that energy and make it something you could build on.
Right. It was it's funny because I used to do reactions on my YouTube channel, and
Mhm.
actually I did a reaction. It was me, my wife, using another friend of ours, and Lex. We did a reaction to Childish Gambino, "This Is America."
Ah, right.
He's, that video's got over 400,000 views on it by itself.
Million.
Yeah, I'm just talking about my reaction video.
Oh, your reaction video. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And what's
Wow.
crazy is because I was fairly new to YouTube at the time and I had no idea about copywriting and chopping up the video before you post it.
Yeah.
So all that 450,000 views, all for nothing.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
You just, and it was just like, I'm saying it to say because like if you go to that video, matter of fact, I will send you the link to that video. You just look at some of the comments and he's like, Lex is a strong dude because they were eating his ass up in the comments of that video. I
Okay.
mean, it was, and you have to have thick skin for the shit they were saying about Lex in that comment section. But I'm gonna send it to you because it's hilarious.
Okay.
And you know what I'm saying? And then I had a video on TikTok about you remember when the young lady was recording her baby daddy that brought McDonald's for the one child and not nothing for the rest of the kids.
Right. I remember that. I remember that
Well,
story.
I did a little TikTok video and I was like, well, you know how I feel. Fuck them kids.
Right.
And that video got over 46,000 views within itself. And I mean, like, boy, there was oh my god, it was so much bitter bitch in energy in the comments. And you said they was like, nobody cares what you think about you said in that particular situation. I was like, bitch, obviously you do. You watched it. Appreciate the view.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's personally how I deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, and I try to teach that, but like I said, also on my platform, I try to have my guests give some encouraging words to the youth as well. You know what I mean?
Right. Of course. Of course. That's awesome, dude.
You saying now before we get up out of here, you saying like, what do you have coming up, and where can the people find you?
um, well, I have a workshop that I'm doing Sunday tomorrow. This one is going to be in Massillon though at 14 Lincoln Way. That's a comedy club called Crackpots. Crackpot Comedy Club is only about 2.5 years old now. It's ran by a gentleman named Chris Kettler. I run my workshop there just because there's a huge contingent of comics that's in that Massillon, sort of southeastern Ohio area, Akron and Canton, places like that, where Massillon is a little bit easier to get to than Cleveland. It's
Mm-hmm.
like a 45-hour drive for some of those guys that come up here to Cleveland, but it's like maybe a 10, 15-minute drive from Massillon. So I run it out of Massillon because they have a huge thing of comics that are looking to get better. But I also do one in Cleveland that I'm going to do on April 14th, to be determined. Right, I don't have a spot necessarily for that one yet, but I'm still looking, and I'm working with a couple of people to try to get a spot together. Um, so that's going to be from 4 to 6 tomorrow, and that's actually in conjunction with some comedy contests that they have coming up at Crackpots, some
Okay.
open mics and other comedy contests. The one that I do here, there's a couple of people that I'm working with, so I gonna keep that under wraps for a minute. But it's going to be the same type of thing. Now, what are you going to get from this workshop? You're going to learn how to get started as a comedian. You're going to learn the basics, my 5 pillars of basic comedy writing, that you'll see most comics use and that you need to master, almost like playing the piano. You learn chopsticks, dun, 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 dun. These are the things you need to master to learn how to become a writer and comedy. So, show wise, just follow me on Are You Funny Rob on Instagram and TikTok, and Rob Coleman Jr. on Facebook. And I post stuff about my shows all the time. I got several shows coming up in March.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, I live in Canton, so you said last question before we get up out of here is how often are you doing it in Massillon? Because like I said, I live in Canton, which is around the corner from Massillon. So
Yeah,
you said how often are you doing that down there in Massillon?
I'm gonna try to alternate months. I'm trying to do it the third Sunday of each month. So
Uh-huh.
March is Massillon, April is Cleveland, May is Massillon, June will be Cleveland. So I'm gonna try to um, revolve it month for month, and depending upon the people that are interested. If more interest is in Cleveland, I'll start doing it more in Cleveland. I am going to start doing a Thursday writing session at this place called Unbar. It's ran
Mhm.
by DJ Brown Johnson and Tyrone Gaines. It's
Okay.
located in the Larchmere area. That second show Thursdays, we're going to meet about an hour before and just go over some writing tips and techniques. Not a full workshop, but just some different writing
Mm.
techniques. And then I also going to be offering individual comedy workshops as well. If you can't attend a workshop and you want to just do a one-on-one, I charge $25 for the workshop. I'll charge you personally $25 just for me for one-on-one for 2 hours. I'll go
Mm.
over how to get started with comedy. So,
Nothing wrong with that. With all that being said, if you guys like this video, make sure you smash that like button, turn on the bell notification so you don't miss another video. And without further ado, I love you. Rob Coleman loves you. We out of here, man.
all right.
Peace.
Thanks, y'all.
The boy Dub Deuce in the building.